So, dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our conference. And we had a wonderful lecture presented by the professor of London School of Economy. He told us what should be locally established for our investment to be even more effective. And right now we come to the topic how to live here locally in that environment that we have and actually make it cleaner and even better for us to thrive. So the next session is for your attention. We have this full studio of guests, and who moderate the discussion. We have the advisor on public infrastructure, presenting the Lead with Europe program, Jana Brick. Dear ladies and gentlemen, hello, and our session will be focused on solid waste management, and we will touch upon the water supply issues. Now, speakers will tell us about some interesting cases. I want to remind you that in Ukraine, in total in 2020, we had approximately 10 million of tons of solid waste. 6,000 locations we actually used to accumulate the waste. Loads of spaces we use for that. So what initiatives we have with the solid waste management, and who can support us on that matter? So we'll talk with our speakers today. Ms. Yulia Shevchuk, who is the head of Ukrainian Nafco office, Vasil Shchur, head of Mezhirska community, and Volodymyr Yashchuk, head of Ilinetska community. So we'll talk to Ms. Yulia first. Yulia, good morning. So tell me, please, as far as I know, Nafco Corporation is funding the projects which aim is to minimize the negative influence on environment and actually to improve the provision of service in the waste management area and the water infrastructure. So what projects do you support? Maybe you have some initiatives and our communities will be able to establish cooperation with you. Thank you, Jana. Thank you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, my best wishes to you, and it's really a pleasure for me to stay here with the practitioners, with people who have some practical projects who actually do implement them in Ukraine. I'd like to express my gratitude to ULEAD project. It's the biggest project that unites so many communities. And briefly, I'll tell about Nafco, maybe for those who do not still know about our organization. So, Nafco Corporation is an international financial institution established by 5 countries of Northern Europe: Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, and Norway. In Ukraine, we provide funding for exclusively environmental and energy efficient projects, and truly we do have programs in the sector of solid waste management, water supply. So we have approximately 200 projects in Ukraine, and our partners more than 100 municipalities in Ukraine. So if we talk about Nafco, we can say that we have many small projects, but not just a couple of big ones. But our projects, it's easy to implement it, fast to implement, and we've been staying here in Ukraine for 10 years already, and we've created an algorithm, an approach on how to work with municipalities effectively, and we have this integrated approach starting from the application and up to the ROI, so we actually provide the follow-up of the project. So, Ms. Yulia, if community does not have a team able to work with it, you provide some expert support as well. And well, unfortunately, and in any project in the world, globally, it's really hard to replace the municipal team, but we do a lot. We use the donor support, the so-called technical assistance, aimed to design the energy audit, the feasibility study, and then we support the municipal implementation group, of course. But it's really important to have these people, or at least one person with this inspiration, the motivation to do something, because sometimes it happens that we do communicate and we start with the city mayor, with management, and then it appears that there is no team or political support, or vice versa. We have a person, an enthusiastic, active person without no support from the management of the city. So it's important to understand what we start with. It may be really a painful spot, a bottleneck for the problem in future. So if we do talk about our programs, well, today we start a new one in the sector of solid waste management. This project will comprise the following. Nafco will provide loans with EU grant involved. It will be a mixed funding scheme plus the municipal funding, and we will provide technical assistance, the consulting follow-up of the project to support its implementation, supporting the procurement process as well. And currently we've selected 10 municipalities, 10 communities to take part, and maybe today we even will present it that this sector is still not covered with investment fully, so it's really hard to speak about the ROI, but we provide the loans, we provide credits. Therefore, we decided to combine one component of the project to deal with solid waste management, and the second component more related to energy efficiency, with such measures as street lighting or outdoor thermal refurbishment. So, for us, we really want to spend the grant money for, let's say, it's important to spend the grant money for environmental component, and we'll start cooperating with these 10 municipalities. We actually have some experience with them in the previous projects, and we do hope that this experience will be truly positive. So if the community already had a project previously, if they previously cooperated with you, so again, it's not a problematic thing for the community to continue work. Sometimes various projects and institutions, they try to pick different communities, so you can have this long-term cooperation as far as we understand. Yes, truly, we can, and we can cooperate with communities where we already have some projects, but also the newcomers are invited. So usually Nafco funding is catalytic, as we called it. So the community starts with a small project with an international organization, and then actually with certain experience, accumulating experience, if they understand that they need to enhance and strengthen the group, they understand that they should hire a professional manager, they can go to bigger projects like this, so step by step. Maybe you have some recommendations for our communities. We have so many of them, I guess, among our audience. So how to start the cooperation with Nafco? It should be an email, a letter, a meeting, or maybe people just have to go to various exhibitions, forums, and to contact with you directly to cooperate. Or maybe a head of community, a mayor, should be the first to give you a handshake. So what should be the first one? Thank you for the question. As I mentioned, more than 100 municipalities we have within the projects, and many do ask us, it doesn't matter how. Sometimes people, even the parents do call us, they require some support for the public premises, but we tell them that we need an official letter first from the community, where you may just put it in whatever format you like, the idea of the project. And we talked about the team, that it has to be in the city or in the community. We help a lot. Starting with the application, we help to fill it out properly, and then we involve the donor support to design a detailed document, to make a decision at Nafco level, at the municipality level. So a TOR business plan, and we have 8 projects in water supply sector, and I'd like to tell about this experience as well, because unfortunately it's well, it goes very difficult in Ukraine. It's really hard to do that. When you start providing investment, you have bureaucracy, high bureaucracy in this sector was under-financed for so many years, and I mean the water supply sector, and truly the Vodokanal teams are very, very weak, and we try to support them. Also, the situation that we have with the ecological indicators, because the drainage projects, it's really hard to implement these if we don't work with enterprises which actually pour the drainage water in the system. So we had this big project where we actually worked with the polluting enterprises. For them, it's easier to pay these environmental fines instead of establishing some clearing and filtering installations, and it actually affects the parameters of our project. So it's really important for us that the municipal management to be progressive, because in our projects we do require the compliance with the EU standards and compliance with Ukrainian standards. And Ukrainian environmental standards are even stricter than European. The other thing is nobody actually complies with it. These are rarely complied with. Thank you, Yulia, for your presentation, dear participants. If you have questions to Ms. Yulia, leave it in the chat. And right now we go to Vasil Shtur, who visited Kiev today. So, Mr. Vasil, when I prepared for our meeting, I googled the Mezhgirska community, and the first thing I got there is the article about your truly interesting experience. When you gathered approximately 6,000 people for Mezhgirsky Forum, where you collected thousands of bags with waste, solid waste. This was your initiative. What pushed you to do this? Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. You know, I would really like these initiatives to be fully preventive, to be stimulating, let's say. To provide some stimulating effect, because we fight with these environmental campaigns, you know, we use these campaigns, but the waste accumulates within a certain period. We just say that really we have a lot of problems in this segment, but if we can in 1 or 2 days pick 30–40% of all the waste that we've accumulated close to villages and forests and in water reservoirs, this is definitely a very substantial result, and I'm supported with people, with management. So and children help me together with teachers and social services and healthcare staff. So you can't find an analog in any other community. It's like it's a record-breaking stuff, you know, 6,000 people to be gathered and to accumulate the solid waste. Yes, it really would be better for specialized services to collect it, actually bring it to sorting stations, to turn it into a resource. I think we will be there eventually, and so far we still have to deal with that in a way that we can. I'm so grateful to enthusiasts. Often these people do help us and they take part in these environmental campaigns. Yes, truly interesting experience. I never believed that, like 6,000 people, each fourth inhabitant of the community. Yes, how did you communicate? What did you use? Social media, social networks, announcements. What did you do? Mostly the management of our educational department, social service and healthcare facilities, they have some leaders in their groups, so I fully relied on managers. And mostly people were organizing groups in each settlement. In Starostensky district, so in schools we had these groups. There was no, I guess, there was no single facility where this campaign, where nobody knew of the campaign. So basically, there was no directive from the self-governance. You know, people simply wanted to help us. We just have to understand that when we do it, we help ourselves. Yes, truly. Thank you for this example. Tell me, please, what is the solid waste management system? Do you have a state enterprise, municipal enterprise, which is responsible for collection and sorting, whatever? So we would like to have, of course, a better system. That's why I'm here in your system. Because we definitely have to reform this system. All around Ukraine, we have a special structure responsible for extraction of the solid waste from the community. Before the amalgamation, we had 10,000 inhabitants. Now we have 25,000. So approximately 20 settlements.
that were there with our municipality, and basically the collection of the waste has been organized, has been developed only for 10,000. So out of the 5 landfills that we have, we understand that it's an inseparable part of our system because we can organize the collection, but if you don't have the place where you can store it, it's going to be a big problem. So right now, there is a big problem for us. It's not that much about the collection as working with the landfills. And I'm going to explain it why is that about. Because right now, after our project, we would like to scale up to all of the communities that we have, and it will be a different concept here. We're going to be speaking about this concept of where we're going to be there storing the solid waste and how we're going to turn it into the raw commodity that will not going to be stored in the landfills. That's going to be then used further on. Right now, we have a problem that on the legislative level, we haven't got it settled out yet. If, for example, we have a lot of ravens in the central Ukraine, so thus we have a lot of places for basically the normal legislative approach to building up some kind of a concept of how we can create the landfills. We don't have a list that being conducted by the legislation because basically we will take a scene that in the ravens we've had our settlements tradition and there would be some rivers, there would be some other limitations by the landscape, and we have now understood that in our community, in our municipality, we have no place for a landfill. Yes, we have the old one, the existing that we've got as the legacy of the Soviet Union, and that has been used up till now and that still functions. But we have to understand that it's not limitless. It has to be used and it has to be got to order next days as well, so that we would not have it used as something that can be used forever. This is our weak point in some way. We cannot do anything. We can do nothing about that because the legislation prevents us. We have those limitations on every step we take. On one hand, we have a river from one of the side. The other one is the register that doesn't give us the opportunity to broaden the landfill. So what we have decided, I really would like to have a landfill in our community, in our municipality. So all of those waste, the solid waste from all of the 3 communities that are the part of our municipalities, they would be collected and something would be recycled and something then would be stored. Because speaking about the storing of the waste, we understand that some of the waste cannot be recycled. And if we're speaking about the US, I have been to US and the landfill that has been located close to Michigan, and it serves 5 million of population. So we have to understand that, it just would be like 2 Carpathian mountains, and it has been cultured proper way. It's not just like a big bunch of waste. That is like a big mall. So we have to have this tight concept as well of creating not like thousands of landfills in Ukraine, but let us do that the right way with the environmental expertise, with the right approach, environmental approach in the west of Ukraine or in every region of Ukraine. But they have to be unified. It cannot be then divided to all of the municipality. We have 44 communities in Zakarpattia region, and we have just 20 landfills. If we will not stop the conceptual support from the state, we will not find the right decisions out of this situation. Whatever can be sorted is sorted, and we're going to get to this level when the people are going to be sorting their waste. But right now, everything that cannot be recycled, it still has to be stored in some way. Yes, right you are. And if we have already spoken about the landfills in Ukraine, we have more than 260 landfills that are already full, more than 800 that are not corresponding to the ecological norms, environmental norms. And I know that the landfills are not the main way out. And I know that you have a good initiative that will not just help us to regulate the situation with waste, but it's going to be the good example in collaboration with communities. So I'll ask my colleagues to turn Vasil's presentation on. I would like to ask you whether you can see the presentation right now. Yes, we have the presentation on, and of course Vasil is going to tell us about his initiative. And moreover, our dear participants, you'll be able to take a look at this initiative at the site of our international expert exchange, and maybe that will be the good example for your projects. So yes, please, Vasil, the floor is yours. Yes, the ecologically clean environment is a healthy community. And I do believe that a lot of my colleagues will agree with that the most important problem for all of us right now is the problem with our environment. Because in some of the segments we are really fast developing, for example, like creating the road infrastructure, and in some other segments as well. But for example, we're not dealing with the waste. We really would like to see that not just the initiative that we're about to discuss today what has been implemented, we really want to see this initiative supported by the state. In this project, we have 3 communities participating. Our district has been divided into 4 communities. We used to have 50,000 population in Mezhirya district. Right now, the 3 communities from this former district are participating in this. So Mezhirya, Seneretska, and Pilipatska community. So we have around like 40,000 population who's going to have the high quality waste management service. I do believe that is going to be a very important segment, a very good start for us. Speaking about the financial support, as of now, according to our needs, we need 5 million hryvnias that are needed from the grants money, and 1.3 million were ready to allocate according to our budget. And to other community, Seneretska and Pilipivska will give us 600,000 hryvnias for the budget. I would like to tell you a little bit about those communities. We didn't start any collection of the waste in those communities. That was a really new thing for them. If, for example, in Pilipats, they have been collecting the waste already, because they have the goodwill of our community as well, because we're helping them out, we're helping the Pilipatska Armada. So we have to work with them as well. If we're not going to do that, then, the waste is going to travel to our community by the river still. Okay, I can't see the slide myself. Can't see that on the screen, I'm sorry. Okay, in the framework of the project, we're planning to establish 77 land loans in the territory of our communities, to procure 308 waste containers and to locate them in those lots. So we're speaking about how we're going to be allocating the collection of the solid waste and the residential waste. We really do not want to store the waste in the landfills. So we have to turn it into the next recycled product, and I'm sure that my colleague will speak about that as well, because they already have the real experience of how it has been done, the experience of their community. I do hope that we will have this desire and opportunity to visit them in Vinnytsia region so they can share their already achievements that they have. Overall, I do believe that any kind of a good example is very important. Whether we will take a look at their example or the European example, that's very important for all of us. To organize the work of the enterprises for the selection and sorting of the waste, I do believe that that is something that has already been done by us, but we still have to develop this segment further on, because it just happened as a concept. There's one thing when you have collected all of the waste from the people. The other thing is when you already can sort it out according to the different types of waste, and you can take it to the sorting line, and you can then take it to the landfill if needed for the final sorting and for the final storage, or recycling or recultivation. And procure and start the mobile sorting line. This is something that we have included into our project as well, because we really need that. Without this mobile line, there was no opportunity for us to implement this project, because not all of our people will learn this culture of sorting their waste. It's hard not only in Ukraine, but it has been even harder to do that in Europe from the very beginning when they just started. So there was different types of financial arguments that have been used to make people do that, actually, to consider this option, because it has been said that the provision of assorted waste costs a figure, and the assorted costs a completely different figure. So there was an example of the US. Then the overall price for the sorted waste is cheaper than the non-sorted waste. So there was the prices that was that important. You're paying for the sorted line works if you don't want to sort it yourself. But there was one thing that I wanted to mention as well, and the most important argument that we have is the equipment itself. Because we quite understand that both the sorting line and the mechanisms for the sorting, and just for us to have all of the sorting mechanisms, and we have a lot of goals for the specialized cars, for specialized vehicles that are going to transport the sorted waste to the specific containers, because that is a completely different category of waste and boxes, and we have to start working in this segment as well. We will have to consider how we're going to be doing that. And we know that there are some other communities all over Ukraine that have been doing that more effectively. So we're basically already lagging behind. We're going to be promoting this sorting of the waste among our population, because without the support of the population, without the support of our people, we understand that there's nothing we can do. And I do believe that promoting this culture is one of the important segments for the development of this culture. This is something that will give us a very good finishing result. If we will have the overall understanding and support from the community, and if our community will be really receptive of this project, then we will make sure that everything will be okay for us. Yes, thank you very much, Vasil. I do hope that all of your plans are going to be implemented as fast as possible, and we do hope that we'll soon will be able to learn, to hear from your initiative being implemented. I would like to pass the floor to Volodymyr Yashchuk. Volodymyr, I'm pleased to welcome you as well. We know that your community, from the very first days of its creation in your Ilinets community, you have started the assortment and recycling of the waste, and you know that you can eat the apples that has been planted in the garden that used to be a landfill. It seems like it's unreal. How did you manage to do that? What have you started with? And what can you advise our communities and our participants who are just moving into this direction? Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen. You know, you can talk about that in a different way. You can use the different approaches. I really loved what Julia has said. And, you know, we will have a closer conversations afterwards, because we have announced that 2022 is the year when we are fighting not the solid waste, but we are now trying to create more filtering institutions and more filtering structures. But how did we start it 4 years ago? We have, first of all, created the organization of our residents who went to the kindergartens, who went to the schools, and who started working with children. Who started working with school children. They started to work with school children so that more adult population would see that the children are carrying those small boxes, they're carrying those small batteries into those small boxes, that they are taking the live battery still from the light, then I still putting it into the box, because it turned out to be an interesting procedure and competition, that it has to be like a trend, that this is something that you have to do. So that was a good example of it as well. We have had our boxes for collecting the solid waste in the 20 places where the city has used to had abandoned waste bins. And when we have seen that the people have noticed out that they have 4 waste boxes, they have seen that there was 2 for the foods, leftovers and the food waste, and then they would see there was the plastics and the solid waste that has been separately sorted. So yes, the people, they've also started to see that we've had a lot of things happening. The people have collected the waste, the people have destroyed this waste bins, but it has been all step by step. But we've managed to complete doing that in our small enterprise, in our small city. Right now, we have 140 people working in our communal enterprise because we actually have to serve more than 500 square meters of the greenhouses that we've had, and you have to take care of that as well. And we've had the first frost coming up to us, but we have 18 degrees plus in the greenhouse, and they're going to be flowers are going to be blooming soon. So we're doing it step by step. We have the 6 brigades right now working, the people working in the waste management. So when we have started this small press, and when we had started to pressing those small plastic bottles, and we have started to send it to Vinnytsia, to the clean bottle, we have understood that in our municipal enterprise we have a lot of boxes, and we've decided to build the waste sorting plant. We have 350 people working there as of now. There has been many categories of people, 11 people. We had young people, we had 11 women working there who have been sorting 60 tons of waste on a daily basis. 60 tons of waste that we collect daily. And we have a lot of waste, like the cement waste. We're not sending it for the landfill. Our landfill, if you take a look on it from the skies, it looks like a very nice stadium right now. You cannot see that, it's not there, but 5 years ago, while I was the head of the district, as Vasil was, it was really terrible for me to look at that. And we could not imagine how could we live to that? How can we live here, drink water here, and just, to bring our own land to this situation that we currently have? We should not go anywhere else. We should do something here. I would like to ask my colleagues to get Volodymyr's presentation on that is going to show us the overall timeline. Oh, you have the slides? Yes, yes, of course. I haven't had got it with me. I didn't know that you have that, but okay. Yes, you can take a look at that. You can take a look of what Ilinets community has started with and where they're going to. Okay, can you please tell us, how did you started to build with your first plants? We got up to this place where we're here and where we are, and we have decided to start the big forum for all of the people, but for the municipal utility services. So we have had the reconstruction of the pipeline Urenhoi-Pomare-Uzhhorod, and we had a lot of big equipment in there on this construction, and I've talked to the main managers of this reconstruction, and we've asked the main manager for landing of this equipment to the same quarries that Vasil has mentioned that he has seen in the United States. And we have turned out to be that we have 6 hectares of really nice, good, arable land. And then we have decided that all of those waste that was there, we have taken with our own cars to the solid waste landfill, so that the people will be able to see that at the environmentally clean land you should grow environmentally and ecologically clean products. And we've decided to do that. So we've invited all of the city's administrations, all of the city heads and mayors. We have invited all of the residents. We had 400 people working there. We have procured the 14 species of and types of apples. We have procured all of those apple trees in our Vinnytsia households, and in 2 days we have been able to plant 5,326 apple trees at the 6 hectares territory. Right now we have already gathered and harvested, I'm not going to give you the tons or the numbers, but those 16 gardens, all of those 16 gardens, all of those 16 schools, and all of those organizations that participated then at planting this fruit garden, they have now received the product as the winter and the autumn apples to be able to try out the product that they have planted as well. We had different information about that, like for example, in what way can you actually imagine when on the polygon what there was mercury there. So maybe someone has broken some thermometers there and might be have mercury because of that. But we have analyzed this land and we have understood that the product is clean because my grandchildren have already tasted this apple from the garden and they say it's good.
That's how it works, and that land now is pure, and the 3.2 hectares of that land plot we actually use because we've built a waste sorting plant, and the region trusted us, the governor trusted us, and he came to see the field, and I said we simply can't just find money for that. It's not our capacity, 12 million for a year, you know, just to give it directly from the community budget and to build a plant. I've been to Belarus for 3 times. We've picked equipment, Belarusian equipment in Brest. We studied that and we actually decided to develop this, but we were prohibited. They said no. So, equipment from Vinnytsia region to be installed in Vinnytsia community. So, Bar heavy industry plant, 100 kilometers far from us. So, we've picked some very good equipment, and they actually provided us with conveyor lines and 12,400,000 hryvnias. From the environmental fund, we had 10 million allocated and 2.5 from our budget, and we also added 15 million within 4 years. We managed to improve the system. As already mentioned, we sorted 60,000 tons of waste. 50 tons we actually bag in bags approximately of 300 kilograms. Because we actually make these pedestrian tiles, and we actually recycle these plastic bags, light density plastic bags. We actually melt it. We first cut it, then melt it, mix it with our river sand, and we create special coverage for the pedestrian zones. 6,000 square meters we managed to produce of that coverage. So we started in May. Now we have a pedestrian zone of 1 kilometer. So there is a bicycle line, a pedestrian line, and people from our municipal enterprise, and they use this product to actually pave a pedestrian line. And in the city we have small patches with that coverage, and we don't use these tiles actually for kindergartens, of course, for schools, just for public zones. That's what we do. Because any mom can say just, oh, my child is sick, that's maybe because of the tiles that she used, but of course people don't understand us, they support us, and we have some common understanding. Therefore, I'll just tell you about our plans. So we also want to build it. It's already a built one. A waste burning station without equipment and a cave company. I will not give a name of the company. So we want to install a complex for waste recycling. So everything that we've managed to sort out, not to bring it to the landfill plot, so some excess waste, and just to burn it there and to actually use the ashes for fields or for gardens. Not to use the chemical fertilizers, but to use the ash. Vladimir, please tell us, if you manage to implement your future initiative, what % of waste you'll have there? Practically zero. We will always have the waste, because we have construction waste, we have by the way, we've managed to conclude agreement. We have a special equipment for the branch cutting, and we have even concluded an agreement with the Zhytomyr plant, and with great pleasure they will take these branches, cut branches, because their Krieg boilers, they actually do use the waste, and they use wooden waste and a combination waste, and they burn it. I was there at the plant, it's not a secret. So Zhytomyr tuberculosis healthcare center, they actually their heating system uses that kind of fuel. So I had to move around, I had to see, because I'm really interested in that. Again, coming back to Ms. Julia's words, if the management wants this, if the community wants something, no other structure, if you don't have a wish, you may be given a lot of money, you may receive a lot of investment, you just need to have a wish and motivation, and of course to be sponsored with some funding and the community budget, and that will have a result. Another thing I just want to say to Vasil, you need to be born there. You must be an inhabitant of that place. You just need to take care of your place, and we are the only ones who will do it. Nobody will come and do it better. I actually had a project together with Switzerland on waste management and water supply. We actually were dealing with the pipelines like this. Thank you. We have a question from the participant on the waste collection in your community. So what amount of inhabitants in covered with that service? 12,000 people in the town, 100% are covered. We have such people who just write a letter to us, please don't put the containers, we don't want. We tell them that this is a special place, fully covered with this net, metal net, as we use for our sports playgrounds, and you know, the green one. And the periodicity, we can actually, with our current transporting capacity, we can even take it every day. Some people say, no, please don't put it. So we have Thursday and Tuesday. On these days, people may just put the waste outdoors, and we have a special transport collecting them. And a special person is taking all that without coming to the yard, without coming to house. They don't even talk to people. They just put everything, they just pick it. And at a certain moment, people have to pay for the services, and that's it. So we will return to you. We'll have so many questions again from the participants, but the first questions we have from participants to Ms. Yulia. Yulia, Ermelnetska community is interested. Does Nafco want to cooperate with small communities, village communities? Do you prioritize the selection? You work with the big ones or the smaller ones? What is your priority? Thank you for the question. Yes, we definitely have priorities. And first of all, these priorities are related not even to the Nafco wishes, but it's more for the budget, Ukrainian budget code requirements, because we do provide mixed funding, loans and grants, and it works like that. So the credit resources only can be taken by the municipal communities according to the budget code, and villages and village communities, they fall out, but they also apply. And we did have a conversation with the Ministry of Finance. We need to deal with that, because after we launched decentralization, we now have so many financially sustainable communities, and we have other priorities as well mentioned, and the colleagues mentioned. on the municipal teams and the wish of the management to cooperate, we do thoroughly analyze it, because we have such cases even when the donor's money is spent. We work, and when we finally come to conclusion of the grant agreement, the city does not do it. So we initially want to check all this, that we will definitely have a long-term cooperation. Thank you. And another question there is, does your Nafco cooperation promote the community cooperation? Do you have the neighboring communities among those 10 ones that you've selected? Maybe the neighbors can actually get some more support, because they sometimes may even launch some joint projects. Yes, definitely we do support it, and in our program related to waste management, well, we actually want to support the cooperation between municipalities. What you mentioned, that is really interesting. But again, what I see right now, our committees don't like to join, to merge. Therefore, your case is really of great interest. And we have these cases where neighboring communities just took those communities as flagships, those that we work with, and it somehow stimulated them. Yes, Vasil, so many comments we have in the chat that you mentioned this problem mountainous regions and how to manage the waste in mountainous area. And people ask, how do you actually work with these chaotic random landfills? Do you have this problem in your community when there are some illegal landfills, or do you maybe cooperate with the inhabitants? Yes, definitely we have this activity ongoing. So when we launch these cleaning days and environmental campaigns, we have this special transport allocated to collect the waste. Sometimes we can't do it with our hands, of course. That's why we use special equipment. But we have definitely so many settlements in our Mizhgirska community where they had no centralized waste management systems. We understand that somehow they managed still to accumulate, to collect it. Maybe they were just burying it. So we constantly have these random landfills here and there, but we need to have a comprehensive approach to solve the issue. Soon, I guess, we'll come to the final solution. Do you actually impose sanctions? I mean, financial sanctions, any fines or something on people? So mostly the environmental inspection imposes the sanctions if a person throwing the waste elsewhere. Solid waste, I mean. The environmental inspection is talking directly to the head of the village or to any authorized person who's responsible for this location. Quite often we do need to, quite often we do it and we are responsible. Well, this is our joint work. That's what we have to recognize. People have to understand that there is like a special schedule for the waste collection, and sometimes the transport leaves, and on the next day, on the next day you still have this pile of garbage just because someone had no time to adapt to transport. The transport will not go back on the same day, and the person just leaves it there, and not all people can adapt to that schedule. Tell me, do you work with the people in some awareness-raising campaigns? Do you actually explain something to people, promotional campaigns on sorting? So my colleague actually gave a very good example. We have some campaigns in schools where we do explain to children, because our children take us as examples and vice versa. Children later then tell their parents what should be done. Because we still have this stereotyped mentality, you know, when we just want to do what we want, everything that we want. But actually, we are responsible. We are responsible for something that we do. If we just don't understand that we all require that this is our common goal, nothing works. But I do hope that these campaigns for children and for young people, we will definitely create another ideology. We will generate another approach. We can see that so many things now, the internet in Europe, so many good cases that even children, teenagers, they may actually absorb it as they're like sponges. Sometimes I can see that children even more polite and more aware comparing to adults. Thank you. Vladimir, people ask you, well, Ilinetska community is a very positive, good example. Everything went fine, but why did you have any challenges during the project implementation, during the plant construction process? What would you advise to our participants? What should be noticed first? With human factor, well, we had no problems. We did not have people against this. People definitely understand that this is a positive thing, that we all eventually have to go there in that direction. And well, funding, I guess, was the only bottleneck. And in our situation, even, and in our community, in our environment, we are an autonomous community. We have 10 million of reverse resource, and the money is taken. If money wasn't taken, we would never ask the state or the regional management and just move forward, you know, and develop as we should. Maybe looking for cooperation with investors. To get some positive result. I can't remember any like bottlenecks. Funding, maybe just the funding, because we definitely want to do it as fast as we could. Because when you already pass one stage and you see that you can actually load 40 tons of Tetra Pak for Kharkiv, so you need to load that product and get some profit out of it. But you know that 40 tons will not be there on Vinnytsia land and on Ukrainian land, because people will actually use acid to take 3 fractions out of it, and they'll create a new product, environmentally clean. They will transform it into something else, and we will have this full recycling algorithm. That's what makes us work. That's what motivates us. To be honest, not always it's like that. Each is trying to get some financial profit. How much will you make? And we are human beings. We do feel that we need to just develop somehow. We can't say it's a profitable thing that we do. So we need to decompose the solid waste 4 times at least. Unless we do it, we won't have any profit. We'll just have a loss. But the idea is that a better environment is a better life, and of course the future generations' life. That's why we are motivated, highly motivated. So tell us, please. So we start talking about profit, and that you start making money. Do you have any special goal? Where do you use your profit for? So we plan to purchase another waste carrier, of course. We want to have some better equipment, and we want a waste collector for the town itself, just to collect any kind of waste, even natural waste, dust, cleaning dust, and also the washing function to be in it. And we really want to have it. The town is ready. People in the town, they do see it, that we've took this direction. And they won't say like, okay, let's have no waste collector, but let's buy a house for an extended family. We are helping extended families as well. But if we have money, we just want to actually invest it further.
Because if we're going to be switching to the European case, then we need to put it in how it should be for us, then we would like to follow that as well, because we are the part of Europe as well. Yes, thank you. Thank you for Dema. Julia, we have a question for you. Our communities are interested whether we have the success recipe for the success for the communities. What they should consider when they're making an offer? What should they consider to be supported by you? Well, thank you very much for this question. And, we have discussed it multiple times already. And I do believe that the only advice that you can give is to give the good team in the city so that the government of the city would have the good desire to make it happen, that will have people who can professionally support this project. That is the most important thing. Because basically the international organizations, they have been implementing their projects in a way that they have been providing a lot of support at the preparation and the design stage, at the implementation stage. But it's very important for the community to be open and progressive and to have the really good team, capable team. All of the other things can be resolved because there's a lot of things that you can find in Ukraine, good projects that are ready and capable tech-wise and environmental-wise, but that is all the limitations about the lack of the human resources and the political will. Yes, so dear communities, if you have good ideas and you would like to implement the project in your community, but you might not know how you can implement a project in your community and you would like to work with Nafco, then please address Julian that they will help you in making your application. And another question to Vasil as well. So, Vasil, our participants are quite attentive and they have noticed that in your projects that you have presented to us, one of the goals is about the increasing the ecological awareness of the members of the communities. Have you developed a strategy of how can you increase the awareness? Or do you have a clear understanding in what way you're going to be doing that? Well, it is something that is automatically involved in our community. If you're implementing this kind of project, it has connection to the ecological and environmental culture. If, for example, you are providing the certain moments for the people, they started sorting the waste in the certain categories, then the people instinctively, they already understand that there has to be done something, that you will not have the opportunity to tell them what they should do. So that was the important moment. For example, you sitting there, standing there, and you know by the colors what you have to do with that, even without saying anything about that. So it's been done basically automatically. So I do believe we will continue doing some kind of array awareness work, but this is going to be as we go through the project, because we cannot do a lot of things in pictures. You have to do a lot of with your own example. But when we are facing multiple problems, that some people must have misunderstood something, they can then re-clarify something from the people. When you're doing that, you are actually developing yourself as well. Yes, another question for you. Do you have the NGOs in your communities that are dealing with the waste management and environmental issues? If you have those, so how do you engage them as well? Mostly we're working on the basis of our institutions, but we don't have this kind of a specialized environmental institutions. We don't have those. We have quite strong and powerful segment and our own ideas. So we're working in our districts, and we can say that our local municipal organizations are our main ecological structures that help us to make the complex decisions, that help us to think, to consider, to implement those ecological ideas. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your answers. Okay, we have discussed it a lot that in our state we're lacking the different policies, that would identify the different types of landscape, ravines or mountains. What it is that you would like to see implemented in our country? I do believe that it would be very good if we would have a specific platform for the associations of the amalgamated community that would be the strategy for the development of the landscape classification. Overall, I would say that this has to be a segment that has to be identified by the state. Because we have now discussed the issue of the waste and the solid waste, and whatever segment we discuss in this case, so whether we're speaking about whatever we speak about the landscape, about the overall, the different natural environment, there has to be a completely different concept for the development of waste management in the mountain areas. For all of the European conditions, for all of the European countries, they have been considering the mountain territory as a separate piece of landscape that has to have a separate approach to the solid waste management, because we have some cements or concrete that cannot be processed and specifically cannot be stored in the ravines, that has a different approach of treating those segments and those elements in the mountainous territories. So basically, if we cannot, for example, if we, once again, for example, we have that. We have 4 communities in our previous center. And if we are not providing this opportunity for using the solid waste in our landfills, so what should other 3 communities do with that? They can do nothing, because they're going to be, first of all, based on this first decision, the first solution that they cannot do consciously, because they need to go according to the environmental expertise, so on and so forth. So the community itself, they cannot help themselves with that. It's not about that their head or the mayor is a wrong one, or the members of the councils, they do not have the desire to do that. It's just that the legislation does not do that. It's just sometimes you're waiting for the environment specialist who will give you a fine. And I'm not just only speaking about our community, I'm speaking about those communities who do not have the opportunity to provide the right assortment of the waste, because the legislation is limited in that. You cannot even make the primary decision in the right way to start it properly. We are speaking about the usage of the residential and solid waste. And when my colleague has already said that has been a lot of a lot of waste has going to be then provided to the recycling plants and going to be transformed into the sidewalk tiles. I do believe that we have to have a complex approach to these segments from all over the state. And I do believe that the legislators have already understood that there is a problem, because when we leave Kiev and you will look around from your window, then you will be able to see what it is that is going on all over the country, and you can see how polluted our state actually is. So that's all changing. We're trying to keep on moving, we're trying to keep on developing ourselves, but we have to consider this segment as well. In your opinion, is there a possibility for you to unite with your colleagues who are considering this issue as well? Yes, of course, there are other possibilities to do that. We're trying to find some of the arguments to get our colleagues engaged and involved in resolving this issue as well. Because trying to get it into the legislative steam with having a clear understanding of what you should do, we have to work with all of those organizations. We need to find the best ways and resolutions. We have to offer up the specific options of how we can resolve the issues there. We have to get it together, and we have to start working together. And I do believe that in this connection, in this collaboration case, we'll be able to find a good positive resolution that is definitely going to be improving our environmental situation, but not making it worse. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, dear participants, if you or if your communities are located in some kind of the mountainous area, you can address Vasil for advice, and you can get together to actually influence our legislators in order to change our legislation and to make it more capable, make it more applicable for your initiatives to be implemented. I just wanted to say that you still have the opportunities to ask your questions. We don't have enough time, but still there was one question to Julia. Julia, can you please share your contact with our participants? And if you don't mind, we will then be able to send them in the chat after this session. your contact mail, and then you can write to Yulia, and then you can write it to her, and you can get her with an offer, and you can establish the collaboration with them. So, Volodymyr, you're also being asked, can people pay a visit to you? And whether you can make it as a tourism trip so that the people will come to you and learn from your experience. Well, this year, 2020, we have had 43 delegations from our colleagues. And by the way, this is the first time that we meet with Vasil, but we have a lot of friends, and we have a lot of friends that we know. And, he had his phone, he called to his friend, and he said, like, I'm here, I'm sitting with this mayor head from Ilinetsk. And he, like, already reminded me when we have met with his colleagues, and, they live like 15 kilometers away. And he gives me the photos when we have been to the waste plant, when we have been studying those issues. So we're always open to everyone and all of the collaboration, because the more people we have that are going to be interested in doing something better, to do something in their community. So it's not just about boasting of who we are, but just, doing something good at what we started 4 years ago and sharing this experience. I'm always ready to share this experience. I'm not dealing with those cases already. And we know that the year for our next ideas would be year 2022, and we're going to be investing some money so that we would have the filtering station for the river, so that our river that goes to Dniester or to Bug, so that our rivers would be protected from the waste. Because basically we know that environment is our future, and I do believe that it's important. So yes, if you would like to come, you can come to us. You know our contacts, we have a support group, and basically we have people who are dealing with that. And on Saturday there are some people who visited us. There were the heads of businesses, the main managers. We had some people who have studied our experience, and they have had studied some issues. So they came to us, they have contacted, they said they were going to send some delegations who would learn from your experience and who would try to benefit from it. It's not just about boasting our experience, it's about the serious work that we have conducted. Because the people have been doing a lot. The people have been doing a lot, and it's an important thing that they have been doing. We already have those 3 stations in Kozyatyn, in Khmelnyk, in Mukurelevci, and Ilinci in Vinnytsia region. And the people that have been they could have worked half a year because they didn't have enough people to do a certain type of job. So right now people are signing up into a list just to find a certain work. So we're speaking about the good salaries that we provide with our businesses as well. With this case, we're using a different human approach to that. So that's how it goes. That's how it goes basically. So I do believe that it is a good example. And if you're going to be coming to us, and I do believe that together, as for us and for Vasil, that people will get to this point that sooner or later you have to think about your future. So whether the Russians are going to attack Ukrainians or not, we hope that they're not going to attack. But environment and life will continue, and the future is in our hands. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Volodymyr. So if you would like to visit Ilinetska community, Volodymyr inviting everyone. Yulia, the final question for you. And because, today in the studio, we have the heads of our community. And in your opinion, in Ukraine, whether we have this critical mass of the heads of the community who would have the strategical thinking about that, how to modernize the infrastructure, how to think not only about the community, but about the environment and all the impact that we have for the environment? Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this question. I do believe, and I'm always saying that when I'm at the conferences, that all of the good things that we have happening is happening in the cities and then the villages of Ukraine. Unfortunately, we can't see that on the state level, and the most important thing for us is not for the state to meddle on the cities are going to be developing, because we all live in the cities and it is our main environment when we live. So basically, yes, there's a lot of good examples, and Volodymyr and Vasily, it's a pleasure for us to hear from what they are saying. And basically, we have already known that we have this critical mass here, and we have more than 100 people as our partners. They are very progressive. But what we have seen at the international level in Ukraine as well, we have this financial problems with the pandemic and with the financial crisis overall, and basically the financial crisis that is ongoing in the world as well. So right now the decentralization process in Ukraine is very positive, but there's a lot of cities who are sharing their information that it's not a really forecastable projects. They do not know whether they have now more income or more authority, because all of the people who have been implementing projects, they speak about some financial problems already as well. So they are stopping us from some of the things, but the trend for the positive changes has already been formed as well. Thank you very much, dear participants. Thank you very much for the great answers that you have provided to us. I'm sure that you have had a lot of interesting things thinking for yourself from the experience of these communities. But by the way, I wanted to invite you to have some rest in some communities and eat the apples from the others. Yes, thank you very much, Jana. After your discussion, I also want to visit those communities. If they have 43 delegations a year, then I think they're open for the tourist visits as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you that our conference is dedicated to the partnership between the communities, and that was a great example of how the communities share their experience and make friends between one another. And we have had that the new partnership has been born here in our studio. Right now, we're going to have a break up till 15 minutes after 1 o'clock, but we would like to wait for you at the very same links, because then we're going to have a very important discussion as well on the digital transformation. Without this digital transformation, it wouldn't have been that easy for us to reach European standards. So please do stay with us.